You ate a burger last week. Or maybe it was chicken or fish. Whatever it was, you probably didn't think twice about it. But here's the thing. Every single animal you have ever eaten in your life shares one thing in common. None of them were hunters. Think about that for a second. Cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, tuna, salmon, shrimp. Every piece of meat on your plate, every meal you've ever had, every dish your grandmother ever cooked, it all came from prey animals. Animals that were hunted, not animals that hunted. And almost nobody ever asks why. You share the planet with lions, wolves, bears, sharks, tigers, creatures that are, by every measure, full of muscle and protein. So why has no human civilization on Earth ever built a factory farm for lions? Why is there no wolf sausage? Why has nobody ever figured out how to eat a great white shark the way we eat a chicken wing? The answer is not what you think, and when you hear the real reason, it will make you look at your own plate and your own body very differently. Stay with this until the end, because the last part of this story is the part that nobody talks about. Let's start with the obvious guess. Most people assume the answer is simple. Predators are dangerous to farm, too aggressive, too hard to control. And sure, that's part of it. You can't exactly put a tiger in a pen and expect it to cooperate. But that's not the real reason, because humans figured out how to tame wolves into dogs 10,000 years ago. We domesticated elephants, we ride horses into battle, we trained falcons to hunt for us. If control were the only barrier, we would have cracked it eventually. So danger alone doesn't explain it. The real reason goes much deeper. It starts with something called the food chain. And the food chain has a rule that most people have never heard. It's called trophic levels. Every time energy moves up the food chain, from grass to cow or from fish to shark, most of that energy is lost. About 90% of it, to be exact. A cow eats 100 pounds of grass. It only converts 10 pounds of that grass into meat you can eat. That's already a loss. But now imagine a predator. A wolf has to eat that cow, or dozens of rabbits, or miles worth of deer, to build its own body, and by the time you eat the wolf, you are getting about 1% of the energy that originally came from the grass at the bottom. You are eating at the top of a pyramid, and the pyramid at the top is almost empty. In calorie math, eating a predator is a catastrophic waste. For most of human history, that math was the difference between life and death. A tribe that raised cattle was feeding itself efficiently. A tribe that tried to feed itself by raising wolves to eat would have starved within a season. But here's what's fascinating. The calorie problem isn't the only problem. There is a second reason we don't eat predators. And this one is physical. It's about what predator meat actually tastes like. Imagine you are a medieval hunter in medieval Europe. You have just tracked down and killed a wolf. You are hungry. You cook it over a fire and take a bite. And immediately something is wrong. The meat is tough. It smells strange. There is something bitter and harsh about the flavor. This is not a coincidence. Predators are built for pursuit. Their muscles are dense and constantly used. Unlike a cow, which stands in a field eating grass, a wolf runs for miles every day. Its muscles are full of fast-twitch fibers, lactic acid, and metabolic byproducts that accumulate over a lifetime of intense movement. The result is meat that is gamey, sour, and unpleasant. And this gets worse the higher up the food chain you go. A herbivore eats clean plant material. A predator eats other animals. And when you eat animals, you absorb their accumulated fats, hormones, and biological waste. Scientists have a name for this. It's called bioaccumulation. The predator stores in its body everything that its prey stored. This is the same reason we are warned today not to eat too much tuna. Tuna are apex predators in the ocean. They eat smaller fish, which have eaten even smaller fish, which have absorbed mercury from the water. By the time that mercury gets to the tuna, and then to your sushi plate, it has concentrated to levels that can damage your nervous system. The tuna doesn't know this. It doesn't feel it. But you would, over time. So the higher an animal sits on the food chain, the more concentrated the toxins in its flesh. A lion has spent its entire life absorbing the accumulated chemicals from every zebra, antelope, and warthog it has ever eaten. Its fat tissue would be a library of biological pollutants. And that was true long before humans added pesticides and industrial chemicals to the environment. This is not a new discovery. Indigenous cultures across the world arrived at the same conclusion independently. In parts of North America, Native American hunters would eat bear when necessary, but they considered the liver dangerous. Bears eat fish. Fish accumulate toxins. The liver filters toxins from the blood and stores them. You don't eat the filter. In the Arctic, Inuit hunters knew not to eat the liver of a polar bear. In the early 1900s, European explorers who didn't know this rule paid for it with their lives. They ate polar bear liver during expeditions. Within days, their skin began to peel off, their hair fell out, their vision blurred. This was hypervitaminosis a catastrophic overdose of vitamin A that had accumulated in the polar bear's liver because the polar bear had spent years eating seals, which had spent years eating fish, which had each stored vitamin A in their own tissues. The poison concentrated through every step of the chain, and the explorers who ate it received years of accumulated vitamin A in a single meal. Several of them died. So here is what's really happening. The reason you don't eat predators is not just culture. It's not just squeamishness. It's not just that we decided cows were more convenient. Your ancestors ran a brutal experiment over thousands of years. They tried eating everything. The ones who ate high up the food chain, the ones who made a habit of eating wolves and lions and bears, got sick more often. They accumulated more toxins in their own bodies. Their children were weaker. Their tribes were less productive. The tribes that focused on eating low on the food chain, on prey animals, on grain, on roots and fish and eggs, outcompeted them. They lived longer, they had more children, their cultures survived, and the knowledge got passed down, not as a written rule, not as a law, but as instinct, as food culture, as cuisine. The recipes your grandmother made were the inherited wisdom of generations of survival experiments you will never read about. The reason chicken tastes good to you is partly because of your own biology. Your taste buds reward low trophic level food. Your nose reacts with suspicion to the smell of predator meat because somewhere in your evolutionary history, the people who found that smell disgusting lived and the people who didn't. Disgust is not weakness. Disgust is one of the oldest protective instincts you have. Scientists at Yale and the University of London have studied the disgust response for decades, and one of their most consistent findings is that meat disgust, the specific revulsion many people feel at the idea of eating certain animals, is not random. It clusters around animals that are either predators, scavengers, or animals that eat things we consider dangerous. We don't eat vultures, we don't eat hyenas, we don't eat crocodiles, not because they're impossible to kill, but because something in us resists it. That resistance is ancient data. It was written into you before you were born. But here's the part of the story that almost nobody talks about, and it's the part that makes all of this feel personal. Because the same logic that explains why we don't eat lions also explains something happening in your body right now. You are what you eat. You have heard that phrase 1,000 times and probably dismissed it as a wellness cliche, but it is a literal biological fact. The fats in your cell membranes right now came from the food you ate last month. The proteins in your muscles were assembled from the amino acids in your last few weeks of meals. Your brain is 60% fat, and most of that fat was updated recently. You are, in a very physical sense, a walking record of everything you have eaten. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. We live in an era of industrial food production, and industrial food production has, quietly and without much announcement, begun to scramble the food chain. Farmed salmon, which should be a low trophic level animal, are now fed pellets made from other fish. Chicken feed sometimes contains fish meal. Cattle in some operations have been fed rendered animal protein. We have been accidentally moving our food animals up the food chain, and some scientists argue that this is producing subtle shifts in the nutrient profiles of the meat we eat. More accumulated compounds, different fat ratios, different outcomes for the people eating it. We have not yet run this experiment long enough to see the full results, but your ancestors ran a version of it. And the results of their experiment are written into the food rules of every culture on Earth. Every single culture across every continent, every religion, every civilization independently arrived at the same conclusion. Eat the prey, not the predator. The Hindus, the ancient Egyptians, the pre-Columbian Americans, the Pacific Islanders, medieval Europeans. Separated by oceans and centuries, they all landed in the same place. That is not a coincidence. That is an experiment with a clear result. So next time you sit down to a meal, next time you look at your plate, you are not just eating food. You are following instructions left by thousands of generations of human beings who figured out the hard way what keeps a human body alive. The burger, the chicken, the salmon, all of it is inherited wisdom, disguised as lunch. And the fact that you find lion meat unappetizing is not weakness, it is memory, the oldest kind. The kind that doesn't need words. The kind that lives in your gut,